Alright, in this video we're going to go over gradients. Alright, so gradients, you can use those a lot of different ways. We're just going to go over some basic gradient stuff here and styles. Let me go ahead and delete this, just turn this stuff off. Alright, so your gradient tool is over here in your toolbar. It's this one here. Sometimes your paint bucket is on there. Just click on this, click on gradient, or you can just simply hit G for good or gradient on your keyboard. That'll bring up your gradient. Alright, so first thing you want to do your colors. Alright, so changing colors back to default is going to be D. That'll change it back to black and white. You click on this bar up here. Go down to your basics. Your first gradient would be whatever your foreground to background is. Okay, so your foreground is black, your background is white, so that would be this one. This next one would be a black color, whatever your foreground color is, and then to transparent. This one is just simply a black and white. Okay, so there are a ton of different gradients already in Photoshop. You can also click on, if you can't see these very well, click on this. You can make large list, large thumbnails. I mean, you can change this if you want. Alright, so we're going to go foreground to background color first. Hit OK. And basically, when you use your gradient tool, your starting point, if you hold down your left mouse and drag, it's going to create a gradient. Alright, so your gradient start point and your end point. You're going to want to just play around with this and see exactly the longer you drag, the more it's going to go from your foreground to your background color. Okay, the shorter you drag, it's going to do this. Okay, and you can drag it from any angle, any area, any length. Okay, but you just want to recognize your starting point and your end point. Okay, your starting point is where it will be most black. Your end point will be where it's most white. And then in between is the transition. Okay, so let's delete this. Just hit delete on our keyboard. And we can do a new layer. Say you want to, in the sunrise photo here, remove tool and bring it down. We could actually use a gradient to create an effect on this image. Okay, we could use on the bottom, let's use white, and on the top, let's use, that would be our background color, let's use a red. Okay, and if we drag up, get back to our gradient tool by pressing G. If we drag up to say here, it would put that gradient over top, bring our layer down, go down to overlay, and see the effect that that gradient, just by doing a gradient, put on this image. Bring our opacity down, and it looks like that. Okay, pretty simple. Okay, so that's just basic use of the gradient tool. You can use a gradient tool to create, a background too if you want it. Drag that underneath the layer and it would look like that. Okay, up here You have a few different styles of gradients too. Alright, so this first one is your linear, which is what we just showed you. If you go here to radial, this is your next gradient. Let's turn this one off. Let's turn this one off. Let's go ahead and do a new layer, and I'll show you the radial. Radial is going to be a circle to whatever color. Okay, that was just a little one. Go larger. You want it right in the center start. Does that. And that's your radial. You have this one. Let's delete this new layer. Yes. Does this effect. So the best thing to do, obviously, is practice and see what each mode does. Alright, so this one here is reflection. Okay, you could actually create, a beam of light or something like that. And then this one here is your diamond. Okay, you can use your start point and end points just to create different types of gradients. You can also go back in here and change your colors this way. Your first stop would be your foreground color. Click on your color button, change to black-ish, change to maybe a blue, and OK. And it does that. So you can change your colors. Once you do your gradient, you can change your opacity. If we turned on this layer, change this to overlay, you can just use a gradient to do basically any type of effects, changing different styles, diamond, reflection, the radial, linear, just a ton of different options. And just play around with it. The more you play around, the more you're going to learn how each gradient affects each image. And you can also do blend modes to change the effects of the gradient. So overlay, soft light, color, exclusion. It does a ton of different things by changing blend modes. I use overlay a lot. I use soft light a lot. I'm simply changing gradient. Putting a gradient over top. You can delete this. Go back to the linear. Change our colors. Say we want orange on the bottom. Bluish on it. Now let's do a pinkish. Okay. Layer. Drag up. Switch to overlay. Turn our opacity down. Just do so many different effects. That's the after, that's the before. So gradients are really powerful to use. Just a recap of getting to your gradient, and you can go over on your toolbar here, or you can just hit G on your keyboard. Click on the gradient up here. You can change colors. You can go to different things that Photoshop already has loaded in. You can change the styles. It's a really powerful tool to use.